Hey everyone, I'm Cary Smith and I'm sitting here with Amar Shah. We're both with Client First Capital. And today we're talking about Amar, I think this is a tricky topic. It's all the complexities, financial and sometimes relationship wise, that happens when someone suffers the death of a spouse, especially when they're older and living in retirement. And so let's jump into this conversation. I think we both have some examples of real life situations that we've dealt with clients in the past. But anything you want to add to say to get us started?
No, at least for me, in the last 20 plus years of being an advisor, we've heard all sorts of stories, right? These are things that you can't make up in terms. Uh, when you have a spouse that passes, it's a very emotional time. It's a very, I would say, irrational time too, to be making large financial decisions and stuff like that. So, the stories that we have today is just, we've taken these from our 20 plus years of experience, seeing what's happened. These are not stories to scare you. These are not like the worst case scenario type stories, right? But these are things that happen more often than you would think, right? And so, yeah, you want me to start with the first one?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So, when I was at JP Morgan a long time ago, we had a client, and the client had a lot of real estate and had a bunch of stocks and bonds as well. And when that client passed away, the spouse um, decided to move all the assets around. And what happened was, because of the time of when this client passed away, the housing, the real estate, which was the larger percentage of the portfolio, was very uh, compressed, right, in value. And then we hit 2009, 2010, and those house values start to go back up. And what happened is that she missed out on the alternative step up date, right? So when a spouse passes away, you get to, in California, you get the step up basis on date of death or 6 months later, right? And that's called the alternative step up, and that's true for most states, right? And what voids that is that if there's any transactions that happen in between that time, that in which you don't own those same assets as of date of death, right? So, you know, the investment assets, maybe let's say you made some changes, but didn't make a lot of changes. They got kind of forced into a model with another advisor, but uh, you know, the money that she made out with performance, she lost much more, hundreds of thousands of more, and the step up in cost basis, like missing those 6 months of gains in the real estate portfolio.
So, Amar, in that story, of course, I don't know exactly what happened, but what's likely is a new advisor was focused more on what they get by getting a new account than what's in the best interest of that client, which might be holding steady even though the money is with someone else. And one of the this isn't my story, but I've seen this happen too many times. But one of the things that can happen is because people are emotional, someone can come in and 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 make those kinds of changes when a good advisor would probably say, don't make any significant changes to your portfolio, right? Most changes can be made gradually, but give yourself time emotionally, 6 months to a year before you start really making some big changes, not just with your finances, but very likely with other things in your life as well.
No, absolutely. I think that's 100% right. Um, this the other advisors saw a new account and probably cost this client, you know, 50,000 or more in capital gains taxes
Yeah.
from the properties. But yeah,
Yeah.
you have a story there.
Yeah, I have one. It's probably a little different because it goes beyond just financial. But I've been in a situation where working with a client and their children, and in this case, the client got remarried shortly after the spouse had passed away. And what I noticed was, although the children weren't so focused on the financials, um, but they still, because they just want their, in this case it was their dad, they just want their dad to be happy. But at the same time, they had concerns about inheritance, and they had concerns about estate planning, and they had concerns about, is everything going to just, potentially transfer to the new spouse's kids, and things of that nature. And what it triggered was, just it really kind of triggered a little bit of animosity in the family towards the new spouse with his children, and it fractured the relationship a little bit. And so, in the end, over time, everything worked out, but it did cause a lot of concern and impact to the relationship for several years before things did work out. And so the need to maybe increase the amount of communication and transparency during those times, I think, is important. And and in this case, the kids honestly were more concerned about their dad than their inheritance, but their concern was, is he potentially being taken advantage of, and things of that nature. And I think if and speaking to the dad, and him being a client as well, he just was living his life and moving on. But there's things that can happen whenever one spouse passes, that it's really an opportunity for families to come closer and communicate more and more frequently to avoid some of these situations. And so, that happened with you. You don't always see both sides of the equation. In this situation, we're able to see, the children's perspective and the dad's perspective, but it did unnecessarily cause a lot of pain and fracture for quite some number of years.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So, I would say so far we have, don't rush, right? Take your time. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very emotional period of time. Irrationality is high. It's easy to get taken advantage of. And then in this story is, making sure that communication is open between generation one and generation two. Um, Here, why don't I end it with this story that's kind of similar to yours in terms of multi generations. There was this one client that we had, husband and wife. Wife wasn't so much involved. This was a second marriage, right? So the spouse wasn't so much involved in the planning or any of those aspects. And when the husband unexpectedly passed away, he had a business that he had, which two of his sons were inside the business as employees that were running some of the operations. And he had a daughter that was outside the business. So the new spouse took the business and just sold it to the two sons. And by doing that, she didn't unintended consequences of not equalizing the estate between three children. The daughter sued the new spouse, right? And so when you're talking about family dynamics, communication, keeping everything open, I think one thing that we need to add to this is to make sure that both spouses have an active working relationship with your advisor. I think that's very important because you can have this perfect strategy, but if there's not that communication piece or that relationship piece, it can easily blow up. And in this case, it cost the family quite a bit of money. So these are just three stories. We have more. We could talk forever, but we want to keep these videos short, and we appreciate you watching. And if you like these videos, please hit the like button. It helps the YouTube algorithm and helps other individuals find our content. If you have questions or you have ideas for future videos, you can hop over to our website, which is clientfirstcap.com, and you can just email us directly from there. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Cary.
Yeah. Thanks, Amar. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.